Sagittarius, God is going to distance you from someone for an incredible reason, and you will understand. Sagittarius, there comes a season in life when the universe whispers truths we may not want to hear, yet desperately need to embrace. You may have noticed lately that certain connections feel heavier than before, as if the ties that once gave you comfort now quietly drain your spirit. In these times, it can be difficult to understand why God, or destiny itself, begins to create distance between you and someone you thought would always be by your side. But remember this: every separation carries within it the seed of revelation. What looks like loss may be divine protection, and what feels like emptiness may be the space needed for your true purpose to take root. Across the United States, we are witnessing echoes of this very truth in society itself. Communities once tightly bound are being shaken apart by disagreements, political divides, and economic pressures. Just as you, Sagittarius, may be asked to release a relationship or bond that no longer serves your growth, the collective is also being guided to shed what is unsustainable in order to find clarity. So as we open this journey together, let your heart rest in trust. You are not losing, you are being prepared. Stay with me through this message, and if these words touch something deep within you, remember to like, share, and subscribe so our light can reach more souls who need this reminder. Gate 1: The pain of letting go and the truth behind separation. Sagittarius, one of the hardest lessons for your free-spirited heart is learning that not every companion is destined to walk with you to the end of your journey. Your sign thrives on exploration, expansion, and truth-seeking, yet when it comes to relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, there's often a deep longing for stability beneath your adventurous surface. When God begins to distance you from someone, it rarely feels gentle. At first, it feels like betrayal, confusion, or even abandonment. Yet in truth, what is happening is divine alignment. You are being shifted away from an energy that no longer serves your soul's evolution. Look at America right now, and you will see the same cosmic principle at play on a national scale. Communities across the country are grappling with deep divisions. Political polarization, racial tensions, and economic inequality are creating rifts that no one can ignore. What once held together under a fragile sense of unity is now being pulled apart, not to punish but to reveal what lies beneath the surface. In many ways, the U.S. is experiencing its own separation season. Old alliances between political parties are crumbling, traditional trust in institutions is eroding, and the illusion of unity without honesty is dissolving. Just as in your personal life, Sagittarius, these fractures are painful but purposeful. Imagine a relationship where you constantly silence your truth to keep the peace. At first, it feels noble, you are sacrificing for harmony. But over time, that silence eats away at your authenticity, leaving you hollow. The same is true for a nation or a community. When differences are buried instead of acknowledged, they fester until the universe itself steps in to shake things loose. This is exactly what we are witnessing in the United States right now. An enforced honesty, a cosmic intervention saying, you cannot continue to pretend. The truth must be faced. For you, Sagittarius, this may manifest in someone being removed from your orbit, sometimes abruptly. A friend may suddenly grow distant, a partner may walk away, or you may feel pushed to step back from family dynamics that have drained your light. At first you might resist, questioning, why me? Why now? Haven't I already lost enough? But with time, clarity comes. Perhaps that friend's influence was keeping you small, perhaps that partner's path was leading in a direction opposite of your destiny, or perhaps those family patterns were preventing you from standing fully in your independence. Think of it like a forest fire. In nature, fire seems destructive, but it clears out what is dead and dry so that new growth can emerge. Many states in the U.S., especially in the West, know this cycle well. After devastating wildfires, communities grieve the loss, but within a season, new green shoots rise stronger than before. In the same way, God may burn away relationships in your life, not as punishment, but as preparation for the fertile ground ahead. Another example lies in the economic landscape of America. Rising unemployment numbers and the public debate over the debt crisis have left millions questioning stability and security. These are separations too, the severing of people from jobs, the breaking down of financial illusions that promise permanence but could not deliver. Yet, beneath this turbulence lies an opportunity for transformation. New industries, new innovations, and new ways of imagining wealth and sustainability are being born from what looks like loss. For you, Sagittarius, the same truth applies. What you are losing is not random. It is clearing the path for something greater, something aligned with your higher calling. And here is where your Sagittarian gift shines brightest. Your ability to see beyond the present pain. While others may cling to what is falling apart, you carry within you the wisdom of the archer, the vision to aim at a higher truth beyond the immediate. This does not mean you bypass the grief. Rather, you honor it, but you do not get stuck in it. You understand that destiny is always in motion, and separation is not the end, but the beginning of a redirection. So, Sagittarius, if you feel God pulling you away from someone right now, trust the process. Do not chase what is being removed, for chasing would only prolong your suffering. Instead, hold space for what is being birthed in the silence left behind. The universe is not cruel. It is precise. Every distance created is an act of love, ensuring that you are not anchored where you no longer belong. As you reflect on this truth, look around at the collective story unfolding in America. The divisions, though painful, are forcing a reckoning. A chance to rebuild with honesty, courage, and integrity. In your life, you are being offered the same gift. The chance to rebuild your circle, your connections, and your identity from a place of truth, not illusion. And when you accept this, you will find that what felt like separation was in fact liberation. Gate 2: Healing through distance and the silent work of transformation. Sagittarius, when distance first arrives, it feels like silence louder than thunder. The absence of a familiar voice, the empty space where laughter once lived, the quiet dinners where someone used to sit. It all feels unbearable. Yet in that silence lies the hidden work of transformation. You see, the universe often heals us not in the noise of activity, but in the stillness of absence. And though your restless spirit may resist stillness, it is in this very pause that you find clarity about who you are without the weight of another person's shadow. In America right now, we can observe a collective version of this process. After years of economic expansion and consumer-driven frenzy, the current debt crisis and waves of unemployment have forced a kind of national stillness. Millions of families are learning what it means to live with less, to confront limitations, and to face uncomfortable truths about dependence on systems that are no longer reliable. At first, this shift feels like deprivation, like something precious has been taken. But beneath the surface, it is offering the same medicine you are being given, Sagittarius. The medicine of resilience, resourcefulness, and rediscovery of self. Think of the student who loses their scholarship due to budget cuts and feels their dream collapse overnight. First, it seems cruel. But in the silence that follows, they might discover new talents, perhaps a skill for entrepreneurship, or a calling to community leadership. Likewise, a worker laid off from a fading industry might grieve the loss but then innovate, creating something that not only sustains them but inspires others. These real-life examples mirror your spiritual lesson. Distance is not only about loss, it is about discovering what is waiting to emerge when the distractions are gone. For Sagittarius, a sign ruled by Jupiter, the planet of growth and wisdom, the silence of distance becomes the soil for wisdom to take root. Without constant input from others, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You rediscover passions you had buried, dreams you had postponed, truths you had silenced. Sometimes God pulls someone away not because they are bad, but because their presence had grown too loud for you to hear the whisper of your own destiny. Healing in this phase requires courage. It is easier to numb the silence with noise, scrolling endlessly, rushing into new relationships, filling every empty hour with distraction. But Sagittarius, your soul is asking you to sit in the stillness, to listen to the ache and allow it to teach you. Pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. The silence you fear is the very portal to the strength you need. This is much like what America must learn in its current crisis. Politicians are forced to confront hard choices, rather than covering deficits with borrowed illusions. Communities are reevaluating what truly matters. Family support, local resources, shared resilience. The noise of endless consumption is giving way, however unwillingly, to conversations about sustainability and responsibility. Just as you, Sagittarius, must learn to sit with silence and allow it to heal you, so too must a nation learn to face its broken systems without distraction, to admit where illusions no longer serve. I recall a story of a man who, after a painful divorce, found himself alone in a quiet apartment with only his thoughts. For months he resisted the silence, filling his time with temporary fixes. But eventually he surrendered to it. In that stillness he began to write again. Something he had abandoned for decades. That writing led to a book, and the book led to a community of readers who resonated with his healing. What began as devastating distance became the soil for his destiny. This is your mirror, Sagittarius. The distance you are experiencing may feel unbearable now, but it holds within it a seed you could not have discovered otherwise. Your healing will not come overnight. It will come in small, almost invisible steps. A morning when you wake and realize you no longer ache as sharply. An afternoon when you rediscover joy in something simple. Sunlight on your skin, laughter with a stranger, the thrill of learning something new. Healing sneaks in quietly when you allow the silence to work. And one day, you will look back and realize that what once felt like punishment was in fact preparation. The key here is trust. Trust that God's timing is precise. Trust that what has been removed was no longer aligned. And trust that your healing will lead you to a life richer and fuller than the one you mourn. Trust, Sagittarius, that distance is not abandonment. It is recalibration. Just as America must trust that this season of financial strain will lead to a stronger, more honest foundation, you must trust that your personal silence will lead to a stronger, more authentic self. Healing is not about returning to who you were before the distance. It is about becoming someone wiser, freer, and more aligned than you ever imagined. So let the silence stand. Let the distance remain. Instead of rushing to close the gap, lean into it, knowing that this is where your spirit is being renewed. Sagittarius, your healing is already unfolding. You need only give it time, and soon you will see that this season of distance was not a curse but a blessing cloaked in disguise. Gate 3: Rebuilding Identity and the Destiny that Emerges from Distance. Sagittarius, the moment distance has done its work of silence and healing, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to see yourself with new eyes. Where once you defined yourself by who stood beside you, now you realize you are whole even when you stand alone. This shift is not small. It is a sacred initiation. For your sign, whose arrow is always aimed toward higher purpose, this is the universe's way of reminding you that your identity cannot be tied down by the weight of others. You are meant to rise, to expand, to chase visions that others may not yet understand. And sometimes God must clear your path so that you can see how limitless you truly are. This same pattern is playing out in America right now. Across the nation, institutions are being forced to reconsider their identities. Political parties are fractured. Trust in leadership has waned, and old assumptions about power are crumbling. The very idea of what it means to be united is under fierce questioning. For decades, many citizens placed their faith in systems without examining whether those systems were serving truth or merely maintaining appearances. Now, through crisis and division, the country is being asked, who are you when the illusions fall? What identity will you claim when the easy answers are gone? And Sagittarius, you are facing the same soul question. Who are you when a relationship ends? Who are you when the friend you leaned on is no longer there? Who are you when the family expectation you tried so hard to meet no longer controls your choices? At first, the answers may feel terrifying, but in truth, this is liberation. The chance to reclaim your identity not as who others say you should be, but as who you were born to be. Consider the countless individuals in America right now who are redefining themselves in the face of upheaval. Workers laid off in collapsing industries are stepping into entrepreneurship. Young voices, previously ignored in politics, are rising to challenge old narratives. Families, once scattered by economic migration, are finding ways to rebuild closer bonds in smaller, resilient communities. Each of these shifts reflects a powerful truth. Identity is not fixed. It is forged in the fire of loss and the courage to start anew. For you, Sagittarius, this is the season to recognize that what you thought you lost was not your foundation. It was your cage. Destiny cannot reveal itself fully while you are bound to someone or something that dims your fire. Your identity is meant to be fluid, to grow, to evolve. And in this moment of distance, you are being invited to reimagine yourself. Perhaps it means pursuing the career you were once told was impractical. Perhaps it means reclaiming your independence after years of compromise. Perhaps it means admitting that the love you once thought was forever was only a stepping stone to something far more aligned. Do not underestimate the courage it takes to rebuild. To stand in the ashes of what was and declare, "I am still here and I am becoming someone new," is an act of sacred bravery. And yet, this is exactly the energy America itself is being asked to embody. After every division, after every crisis, comes the chance to rebuild identity. Not from illusion but from truth. The destiny that emerges for you, Sagittarius, will not look like the path you imagined when you were still tethered to that old relationship or bond. It will be wider, brighter, freer. Just as a nation may be forced to confront corruption before it can claim justice, you too must confront your attachments before you can step into freedom. Distance is God's way of saying, "This is not who you are anymore. Let me show you the truer version of yourself." Take, for example, the rebuilding of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. The devastation was immense, the loss is unbearable. Yet from the ruins emerged a city that, though still scarred, found ways to reclaim culture, to innovate, to build stronger levees, to honor resilience. The same pattern lies ahead of you, Sagittarius. The storm of separation may have left scars, but those scars will remind you of your strength. And from them, a stronger identity will emerge. One rooted not in fear of loss, but in faith in destiny. The crucial lesson here is this: destiny is not revealed in comfort. It is revealed in the aftermath of loss. Your new path will not be handed to you in the form of guarantees. It will rise from your willingness to step into the unknown, to trust that the arrow of Sagittarius always finds its mark when aimed with faith. So as America wrestles with its fractured identity, let it serve as a mirror for you. The breaking apart is painful, but it is not the end. For both you and your country, it is a threshold. A moment to ask, what will we choose now? What story will we write next? Who will we become when we are no longer bound by the illusions of yesterday? Sagittarius, your destiny is calling not from the past, but from the horizon ahead. And though distance has left you aching, it has also cleared the way. You are no longer who you were, and that is your greatest gift. Stand in your new identity with courage, and let destiny reveal itself in ways more incredible than you ever imagined. Gate 4: the divine reason and the moment of understanding. Sagittarius, every story of distance eventually leads to revelation. In the beginning, it feels like punishment. In the middle, it feels like confusion. But in the end, clarity arrives like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. You begin to see why things had to happen the way they did, why God's hand removed what you clung to so tightly. And when that moment of understanding comes, gratitude replaces grief. You look back and realize the separation was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to prepare you. In your life, Sagittarius, this clarity may come suddenly. Perhaps you cross paths with someone new whose presence awakens your spirit in ways your old relationship never could. Perhaps an opportunity appears that you would have missed had you stayed tied to what was familiar. Perhaps you simply wake up one morning and feel lighter, realizing you had been carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. This is the divine reason. God distances you not to strip you of love, but to make space for a love, a calling, a destiny that is greater than anything you could imagine on your own. Look at the United States right now. For years, the country has wrestled with division, financial strain, and public unrest. To many, it feels as if the nation is being torn apart. But beneath the chaos, something deeper is being revealed. Illusions cannot hold forever. Systems built on imbalance must crumble so that new, stronger foundations can rise. The debt crisis, unemployment waves, political scandals. All of these are painful separations from old ways of doing things. And yet, within this unraveling lies the divine reason. The country is being forced to confront truth, to shed what is unsustainable, and to step into a new chapter of accountability and renewal. Painful? Yes. Necessary? Absolutely. In the same way, Sagittarius, the people or relationships that are leaving your life are not accidents. They are part of a larger orchestration. The timing may feel cruel, the loss may feel heavy, but the reason is always love. Love that refuses to let you remain small. Love that insists you walk your true path. Love that clears away what distracts you, so that your arrow can finally aim toward destiny without obstruction. Think of the farmer who prunes a tree. To the untrained eye, it looks harsh, cutting away branches that once bloomed. But the farmer knows that without pruning, the tree cannot bear fruit. The energy would be wasted on dead or weak branches, leaving the tree vulnerable. In the same way, God prunes your life. He removes what is no longer bearing fruit, not to harm you but to strengthen you. And though the cuts sting, the harvest to come will make sense of every wound. The same truth can be seen in America's cultural awakening. Movements for justice, equality, and reform are rising out of the ashes of old injustices. Conversations once silenced are now unavoidable. Though uncomfortable, these shifts are shaping a future where honesty and accountability stand stronger than denial and avoidance. It is a painful pruning of a nation's soul, but it is creating space for something more authentic to grow. For you, Sagittarius, the moment of understanding may come when you realize that the person you lost was never meant to walk into your next chapter. Their role in your life was complete, their lesson given. To cling to them would have been to stay trapped in a season that had already ended. And though your heart may have resisted at first, your spirit now sees. God was not taking from you but guiding you. Perhaps years from now you will look back on this season and smile, remembering how broken you felt, only to realize that everything you dreamed of was waiting on the other side of that loss. Perhaps you will thank the very distance you once cursed, because it became the bridge to your destiny. That is the paradox of divine separation. In the moment it hurts. In hindsight it heals. Sagittarius, the understanding will come. You will know why God placed distance where you wanted closeness. You will see how protection sometimes wears the disguise of rejection. You will understand that your path is too sacred, too expansive, to be weighed down by what cannot walk with you. And when you reach that clarity, you will not only forgive the separation, you will bless it. Just as America will one day look back on this period of unrest and recognize it as the painful but necessary rebirth of a stronger identity, you too will see your own season of distance as the rebirth of your truest self. What you lose now will pale in comparison to what you gain. What feels like the end is truly a beginning. And what once seemed like cruelty will reveal itself as grace. Trust this, Sagittarius. You are being prepared for a destiny far greater than the comfort you left behind. The divine reason is love, and when the understanding comes, you will stand taller, freer, and more radiant than ever before. The gift of distance. Sagittarius, you have walked with me through the raw ache of separation, the silence of healing, the rebirth of identity, and the revelation of divine purpose. What began as confusion now reveals itself as grace. You see, distance is not God's cruelty. It is His kindness dressed in disguise. Every relationship that fades, every tie that loosens, every bond that breaks has been allowed for one reason: to prepare you for the life that is calling your name. When you look at America today, you can see a reflection of your own journey. A nation wrestling with division, shedding old illusions, confronting painful truths. And just like you, Sagittarius, it is being guided toward a destiny it cannot yet fully see. The breaking apart is not the end. It is the threshold to transformation. In your own life, trust this. What you lose will never outweigh what you gain. The people and paths that leave make room for new connections, new opportunities, new miracles that could never arrive if your hands were still full of what no longer belongs. Destiny does not waste your pain. It shapes it into wisdom, strength, and light for the road ahead. So stand tall, Archer. Trust your aim. Know that even in seasons of distance, you are never abandoned. You are being guided with precision, love, and purpose. And when the moment of understanding comes, gratitude will flood your heart, and you will see that everything made sense all along. If these words have touched your spirit, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe, so that more souls can find healing and hope in their journey. Together, let us continue to walk in wisdom, courage, and faith, trusting that the universe never removes without reason, and never distances without love.